noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, happy Monday, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a great day. Let's get it. Let's get going on the week.
Guests? We don't need no stinking guests.
No. We got a lot to talk about.
It was a good weekend, man. Jam-packed full of good college basketball. Again, college basketball to the rescue.
I know, right?
Holy cow.
You saw a crazy comeback down there. I thought they were dead in the water.
Where would we be right now if it wasn't for Utah State and BYU? Man, they are holding all the weight here in the state for sports.
Yep.
It was amazing, yeah. The Marriott Center was a lot of fun. Took the wife on a little work date.
Yeah.
You know, anytime you can call it a date but still work, it's a pretty good outing.
She loves those.
Well, the last one I went on was to the Spectrum. So taking the wife up to the Spectrum and to the Utah State game. And it's funny because I've had a couple people ask me, okay, well, what's the comparison? What'd you think? You can't compare them. They are so uniquely different.
Yeah.
They are
that's
not like the other.
Well, and that's the cool thing about college basketball is every place has its own identity. And you can't be like, well, this is just better than the other. No, they're different.
They're way different.
They're just different. I mean, BYU just has the sheer enormity of the place and the sheer numbers. You know, Utah State, I think, is a little bit more creative in what they do and how they try to get under your skin because they don't have the numbers, but yet they also they got the volume, too, to go along with it. It's just different. And you can't be like one's better than the other because both have their advantages and can make life miserable for the opponents.
They do, and it was different because the night that I went to the Spectrum and watched Utah State, Boise State, they were honoring Stu Morrill, and there was a lot of energy and excitement around that. When I was just walking to my seats, Lloyd and I, Jessica and Amanda, we probably passed 18, maybe 20 former players, maybe more. How many former players did you say?
I think they said they had like 60.
There were so many former players. I saw former Aggie football players that were out there, bumped into a couple buddies that I knew, and a couple of former teammates. I bumped into Brandon Stevens, who came out of Logan High School and played at BYU. Came in as a tight end, ended up, I think, as a D end. Was fantastic. And it was just one of those nights, Scott. It was a blast. And then the Marriott Center on Saturday night was just, it was like panic. It was like, TCU did a really good job of taking the fans out of it in the first half.
Yeah.
You know, I actually took some video of the game getting started and the students section, by the way, arrives early, jam-packed from floor to ceiling and wall to wall and all kinds of energy. And they get there early, and that was a lot of fun. And the energy was great. And TCU just sucked the energy right out of the building. But what was interesting, and by the way, Brian Estridge out there, and
yeah, he made it.
He made it.
Yeah.
I said, how close was it? He goes, it was close. Scotty G was almost calling a broadcast for the TCU Horned Frogs.
And Brian, who's the play-by-play guy for TCU, was texting me in the middle of the show on Friday and said, hey, we got some issues with our flights. I might need you to call the game. So I was doing a little I was prepping for some Horned Frog basketball.
Uh-huh. That would have been fun.
That would have been a blast. Yeah.
He came up in the stands. I was just a few rows behind him, and he came up and he said, I think Scotty probably would have done a better job anyways.
No, that's
like I should have stayed home.
Brian's a good dude.
He is a great dude. But TCU comes out, and they were banging, dude. They were banging. TCU was throwing elbows and throwing bodies, and Every time you were trying to drive, every time you pushed into the paint, every time you got to the block, anytime you tried to make any movement, they weren't going over or under, they were going through, and they were just getting physical. And that's a physical crew.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, oh no, this is brutal. 17-point deficit at the half.
Yeah.
And then
you thinking got a little bit of the old Kansas hangover there.
Yeah, a little bit of the old Kansas hangover. And then Scotty, it's almost like Coach Pope went into halftime and said, "Yeah, all right. We're done banging." And Foose raises his hand and says, "No, I want to bang." "Oh, okay. Well, let's put Foose in. He can bang. And then we're just going to shoot everything on the outside." And because I think they were like 1 of 12 or 1 of 13 in the first half. Then we're going to start dropping threes. So Nell comes out, he drops a three. They start pushing the ball into Foose, who's, Terore, he's not a world beater, but it's like he was like, "Oh, you guys want to push? You guys want to bang? You guys want to shove?" And he gets physical in the second half. He starts throwing his weight around. Scores an exorbitant amount of points. Nell drops a bunch of threes, and they start hitting these threes. Jackson Robinson hits a big three there with about 2 minutes left to really extend and push some distance in between them and TCU. And they overcome a 17-point deficit at the half to get a win.
Crazy.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, I thought they were done. I absolutely thought they were done. I did not in a million years. When I was watching that in the first half, I'm like, wow, this really sucks. A lot of the momentum you built for Kansas, you're not going to carry over. And oops, that was not the case. They absolutely carried it over. And it was a huge win, absolutely huge win for BYU. Utah State got the win against Air Force as expected. Not the prettiest win, but they are able to get the victory. And we'll be in San Jose. In fact, I'll be doing the show the next couple days in San Jose, California, tomorrow and Wednesday. So they'll play Wednesday night in San Jose, and then they'll wrap things up Saturday against New Mexico.
Where are you seeing Utah State right now on different seedings?
Anywhere from 6 to 8, around there.
I'm seeing BYU anywhere 4 to 7.
Yep. I think Utah State's just a little step behind there, but hey, all I care about if I'm Utah State. And I think BYU is certainly a lock, and I think Utah State's right there on the edge of being a lock. If they lose to San Jose and lose to New Mexico and lose in the first round of the tournament, they might be sweating some bullets. But they beat San Jose, and that New Mexico game is going to be a bit of a toss-up. New Mexico's a good team. And then, they make it to at least the semis. They're fine. Utah State should be fine. I just want to see both these teams as a top 7 or top 8 seed, essentially wearing your home jerseys. If you're a top 8 seed, 1 through 8, you're wearing your homes. And so that's why I always say, like, if you get to wear your home jerseys in the NCAA tournament, you've had yourself a hell of a season.
Hey, guys, what do you think's more improbable? Utah State at 12-4 and leading the Mountain West Conference, or BYU at 9-7? And whatever it is, 4 or 5 deep in the Big 12.
I would say both crazy and probable, considering what Utah State had to go through.
But what's more ridiculous?
But I think BYU being 9-7, a year after they were 7-9, or they had a losing record in West Coast play last year, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a rough year. Really rough year.
I can't remember exactly what their conference schedule was last year, but it wasn't, or record was, but it wasn't good.
Yeah, I'll pull it up really quick.
BYU. Of course, our show was better last year too. Remember, our show was better than it was this year.
What, last year?
No. It was better. It was better this year than it was last year.
Our show's better this year.
This year, yes.
Oh yeah. Our show's improbable this year.
Yeah, improbable.
BYU was 7-9 in West Coast play last year.
Thanks, Mark Durant.
19-15 overall. Their conference losses included.
They had a 4-game stretch where they lost to Pepperdine, Gonzaga, Santa Clara, St. Mary's. Earlier, they lost 3 in a row to Santa Clara, San Francisco, St. Mary's. They lost to Loyola Marymount. I mean, there's some bad losses in there.
And now they sit 9-7 in Big 12 play.
They lost to South Dakota last year. I forgot about that game.
21-8 overall.
Who knew?
By the way, kind of a difficult 2-game finish. One very difficult, and then Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State, let's see. I think they're at the bottom of the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State's a rough one. But here's the thing. If you would have looked at this 4-game stretch here after that Kansas State loss, Kansas, TCU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, I would have told you had BYU gone 1-3 in that stretch, I say you take it. But now looking at it, a good chance you go 3-1. Maybe 4-0. Like Iowa State on the road, that's a tough one. That's a really tough game to play. So let's say, just for the sake of argument, you lose that game. Come back home, you beat Oklahoma State. You're 3-1 in a 4-game stretch that includes, and I'm looking at KenPom numbers, 17th ranked Kansas, 32 ranked TCU, and 10 ranked Iowa State. Geez, absolutely, you take that.
Yeah. Iowa State's going to be a tough one, though.
Yes, very much so.
But we thought Kansas would be improbable going into Allen and getting a win, but Iowa State right now 12-4 in Big 12 play.
I mean, honestly,
23-6 overall.
If I were to tell you back in August who's going to have more success in year one, the BYU football team or the BYU basketball team in Big 12 play, you would have said the football team.
1,000%.
Yeah, you'd think, okay, you know what? There's going to be some struggles, but they should go to a bowl game. They should be 6-6, 7-5. Yet the football team doesn't go to a bowl game. They have the 3 or 4 game losing streak to end the season. Whereas the basketball team has had themselves a phenomenal year. And again, coming off what they did last year, it's been really cool to see.
Well, that comeback, guys, it was ridiculous. I posted a few videos of some of the crowd reaction, some of the big shots down the stretch as BYU was extending. And I talked about Fusarore. He ended up with 23 minutes. Scotty, he was 8 of 11 from the field, 21 points, 7 rebounds. And in my opinion, he was the engine that got things really going. His competitive edge, it's weird because it's not like he towers people. In fact, he's one of the shorter. He's just really stocky.
Yeah.
And he's thick. And he uses his leverage good, drops his hips, pushes well, knows his angles well, knows some of his limitations, knows how far he can get off a leap. And he uses a lot of that as he's getting to the rim. Just monitors what he does well. But more than anything, I think he's the physical engine for that BYU basketball team. Because as much as everybody loves Ali Khalifa, and believe me, I'm one of those guys. I love his game. Ali was not a fit for TCU.
No.
But that's also encouraging if you're a BYU fan or if you're Coach Pope, because you're like, oh, okay, so we can win without Ali Khalifa. We can win without him being overly productive, because he wasn't killing it in the assist department. He definitely wasn't killing it in the offensive department. He wasn't even really killing it off the boards, even though he had one pretty clutch board. And still BYU's like, nah, we're all right. We're all right. Hey, Terrari, go in there and take care of business.
Yeah. Well, and that's what you're going to have if you're going to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, is that you're going to need, on any given night, some dude to come out of nowhere. And not like he came out of nowhere. He's been a good player all year, but a guy that's got to be the guy, And it's got to be a situation where, okay, this isn't working. This isn't working. This is a bad matchup. Okay, this isn't setting up the way we'd like. Okay, who's going to come in there and make a play? And I've talked to coaches all the time that have said this. When you're having a night where the energy's not there, or it's a bad matchup, or something, you've got to have somebody. It could be your best guy. It could be your third guy coming off the bench. But you need somebody to come in there and say, all right, I got this. I'll make a play.
Yeah.
And then everybody else just feeds off of it.
Yep.
And you know it better than anybody playing in sports. There's something that, like, let's say you're on the road, you're playing at Wyoming or whatever the case is back in the day, and you guys, you feel like you're just running through mud and nobody seems to be, it just isn't clicking. And it's a close game, and it's just like, for whatever reason, the energy, the focus isn't there. And then all of a sudden, here comes Hoke, who slips past a guard and has a strip sack. And then all of a sudden, it just clicks. Mm-hmm. And then it's a feeding frenzy for everybody.
Yep.
And that's the cool thing about sports, and that's what's so much fun about covering sports, is that when you watch a game closely, you can go back and you can identify one or two moments of a game and say, that's where it flipped. And it can be that simple.
So the bizarre thing is where I would say that flipped, and I don't know, I might be the only one in existence that sees it this way, but the way I felt it flipped was when the very first, I think it was first, maybe second offensive possession of the second half, Trevin Knell drops a
yes,
three.
100%.
And it was like, oh, okay, so 1-13 was embarrassing. That first half was bad, but we're not going to stop shooting. And now averages should work out. You know, if you believe in averages should work out. And he drops that three, and everything starts cranking. And then, like I mentioned, Troy starts clapping his hands, and he starts getting into it mentally, and he starts bullying people and pushing people around. But TCU's a good team.
Yeah.
TCU's a really good team. I was impressed by them.
Well, I remember I was talking to an assistant coach, and it was after Utah State was playing Oregon in an NIT game. Mm-hmm. And Utah State, it was the end of it was like 2 or 3 minutes left in the first half, and Utah State led by 8. And they had a possession. They missed a easy shot. Oregon came down and hit a three, and ended up being like a 2 or 3 point game at halftime, and Oregon ended up winning fairly easily in the second half. And this coach told me, and this is why I brought it up, because this has always stuck with me. He goes, there was a moment. We hit that shot. We're up double digits, and this team, who probably didn't really want to be in this tournament anyway, probably shuts it down mentally. He goes, but they come down, they stick a big three on the other end, they get reengaged. He goes, those are the little moments. If Nell doesn't hit that three, mm-hmm. and TCU gets a loose ball, it's a long rebound, they get a transition bucket going the other way, that game's probably over.
Extends to 19.
The game's probably over at that point.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I felt watching it. The margin of error, especially in collegiate basketball, is so razor thin where things can change so quickly, and it's really fascinating. It can be maddening when you're on the other side of it, and it can be absolutely enthralling if you're one of the 18,000 people who were in the Marriott Center, and you've got a game that you'll remember for a long time. If you went to that game, and that's the one game you went to this year, you're going to remember that game forever. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember my uncle was a big BYU fan growing up. In fact, rest in peace, just passed away about a year ago. But anyway, he would take us to a BYU game every now and then. And I remember this was like Ty Detmer's Heisman Trophy year. And they had beaten Miami. They'd beaten, I don't know, I think they were undefeated to start the season. They were playing Washington State at home. And Washington State's just kicking the trash out of them, up by, 17, 18 at halftime. And BYU comes back and wins that game. My uncle would always talk, and now look, that dude bled blue like crazy. But my uncle would be like, hey, remember that time I took you to that BYU game and they came back and beat Washington State? I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was a fun game. Oh, that was the best game I ever went to. And the dude went to tons of games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was the game because it was
burned in his mind.
Such a crazy comfort mind victory. There will be people that will remember that game against TCU for a long time, regardless of how that season ends. And it all comes down to one or two plays.
Not the biggest comeback in Pope history, it's the largest second half comeback. It was the largest first half deficit that he'd faced and come back from. But he'd had, I think it was like 21 or 22 points that he came back at some tournament, maybe in the Bahamas or something. Mm. But the biggest halftime deficit that he's come back from. And you could feel it in the arena, that's for sure. People could sense it. You know who else was working hard off it? We had Dallin Hall on Friday.
Yeah.
That came on with us. He was great, too.
Yeah, good conversation.
By the way, we got another conversation today with...
Yeah, Josh Aduje from Utah State will join us at 1:30.
So that'll be a fun conversation. But Dallin Hall was Mr. Do-It-All, grabbing big, clutch rebounds, hitting clutch assists, dropping clutch baskets when they really needed it to get going in the second half. And he was the most consistent thing that you could find from the three. He was still cranking them outside and hitting really critical shots that this team really needed in that comeback. But that's I think that's a 29-point swing.
Yeah. It's not like BYU just won it by 2.
Yeah, it's 17, and you win by 12.
You end up winning that by 12.
It's a 29-point swing at half.
I mean, what is it? You outscored TCU 58-29 in the second half?
Yeah, that's exactly it. 58-29.
That's insane.
It was fun. It was a really fun one to be at. And BYU fans, man, they're passionate. But you can't compare the Spectrum and the Marriott Center. They're both incredible in their own unique ways.
Yeah.
And BYU's got they do a really good job with their in-game operations.
Oh yeah, no, they do a great job.
They had a
from top to bottom down
big
there.
tumbling routine, and then Cosmo did some magic show and
went through a ring of fire.
Did he do that
Don't
down there?
lose our heads out there. No.
He's done it before.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he's done it a handful of times, but no, it was man, they were chucking these cheerleaders up. They were almost touching the speakers on the overhead screens. It's as high as I've seen cheerleaders being thrown. It was high enough my wife was alarmed by it. I was like, I don't know.
Boy, that looks dangerous.
I'm like, man, if they don't catch that person, we're looking at death.
I got it. I got it.
You get your little cougar tail?
No, I didn't. I've been trying to watch my calories.
Okay. What did you consume anything down there?
No.
Really?
No. I was actually in the middle of a 24-hour fast on Saturday. Just trying to heal the body. I've got bad bacteria in my gut or something. I don't know what's going on.
You can heal the body when you're dead.
Saw a picture of myself from Friday, and it was alarming.
What picture?
Knock it off.
You know the one.
Oh, those pictures? Those are great pictures.
I know. They're good.
Anyways, fun weekend. Excited to see what BYU and Utah State do to finish off the regular season. More excited for conference tournaments.
Oh, let's go.
10 times more excited for NCAA tournament play.
Next week, folks, we will be in Vegas. We got all kinds of fun stuff coming up. It's going to be an absolute blast next week. You got Big 12, you got Pac-12, you got Mountain West, all kinds of fun stuff coming up right here on The Zone. All right, Hans and Scotty, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Take a break, come back. Jazz, doing what the Jazz have been doing a lot of lately. Taking an L. We'll break it down next. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
You need to see this Jazz team up close and in person.
Oh, that was filthy.
Listen all day, every Tuesday, for your chance to win Jazz tickets. As The Zone will give away Jazz tickets at 30 past the hour, every hour, all day long. It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday. Every Tuesday, all season long, presented by UCCU. Love where you bang. And on your exclusive home of the Utah Jazz. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah. We've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Keyonte, left baseline drive. 3 Heat players come over. Keyonte stops from 8 feet, floats it up and in, and Keontae's got himself 19 points. Keyonte, ball fakes a 3, feeling it with 25 tonight. Crosses over, drives into the defense, gets open the lane, finger rolls, scoop and a score! Feel this moment, Keyonte! Hendricks boards, pushes ahead to Keyonte, slides by Rozier, tight roping the sideline. Left-hand drive to the rack, finger roll, scoop with the right, and it's a 4-point game. And Keyonte George has 29. Hendricks has 13 rebounds as the rookies have come to play in Miami. Great games for Keyonte and Taylor Hendricks. A lot of bright spots tonight, no question. Keyonte gets the lane for 31. 31 for Keyonte, 8 points, 13 rebounds for Taylor Hendricks.
12:34, Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jazz lose to the Miami Heat, 126-120. But you heard Will Hardy talk about Keyonte George. Ended up with 31 points. That's right, 31, including 6 of 14 from the three-point line. We talk about walking away from games in which you're not really expected to win, but you want to have takeaways. Well, Keyonte George gave you a pretty nice takeaway.
Man, what's going on with your salsa making capabilities, bud? You're taking the next level. I'd say it's restaurant quality, but there's not restaurant quality like that. And why don't restaurants go to more of the pepper-based salsa like that? That's what I don't understand.
This is not a tomato-based salsa. This is all jalapeno-based.
Which it's 10 times better.
My salsa verde. Lloyd doesn't like it, though, which is fine.
Hold on.
Man, you are something
I got to stick up for my guy, Lloyd, because
come on.
Scotty brought us into a room, and he's like, listen, guys, I want you to be overly critical. Give me, like, any advice you think on this. Now, I felt like that original one that you did, because I couldn't eat the avocado one, I felt like it was just perfect. If anything, touched too much heat, but really the heat was right on point. And Lloyd,
so your complaint is a touch too much heat. You know what? You can't have any. Nope, none for you.
Don't do this.
You can't have any. Yeah. Too hot? Get out.
Scotty brought a whole case of this salsa in for me that he's made, and I've already gone through half of it, of course, outside in the foyer.
Oh, yeah, not in the studio.
And I went to share some with Lloyd because I got us a couple of bean and cheese burritos because I thought, you gave me heads up.
I texted you that because you had asked me for some. Lloyd, had you asked for some, I would have brought you some in too.
That's my fault.
But your salsa it's off.
Have you tried this version?
I haven't yet. No,
I'm kind of curious.
I got to step out of the prod room to try it.
You thought it was a little more spicy. I actually think that's a little more mild.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I think that's a touch more mild.
It's interesting when you work with jalapenos, you're never quite sure what you're going to get.
You can get some that are really hot, and before you know it, it's out of control. Or you can get some that's like, I need a little more kick.
Yeah.
Your salsa is way better than the Utah Jazz. And it should be talked about more often.
Am I here's the thing too, I feel so domesticated too. This is I also spent a bunch of time working because I'm doing this barbecue competition. Mm-hmm. So I was working on trying to do chicken thighs over the weekend and all this stuff. And I'm like, who am I? Like the 25.
What category did you select?
I'm doing all 4 meats: brisket, chicken,
pork,
pulled pork, and ribs. Yeah. Now it's not coming up until July. I got plenty of time.
So I thought you were doing a steak competition.
I'm doing that too.
Is that part of the same?
No, it's a different type of competition.
Oh.
But anyway.
So are you going to start getting the mobile smokers and everything?
I would love to. I would love to. But here's the thing. All of a sudden I'm taking a step back. I'm looking. I'm like, who am I? When did I turn into this old boring guy? I'm taking so much pride in making salsa. It was like a literal joy of mine over the weekend when I tried that salsa. Because my basketball game is on Friday night. So Saturday I had to myself. And Jenny.
How nice was that, by the way?
Oh, it was awesome.
Getting a Saturday night.
And so I go to the grocery store and I'm like, and you were saying hey, I need more of that salsa. I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm walking down the grocery aisle and I'm like, let's make some salsa. So I grab all the jalapenos and serrano peppers and all that stuff. And I get home and it's snowing. So I can't really do anything outside. And so I'm like, let's make it now. And so I'm over there in the kitchen, like that dude from the Muppets, just throwing all this stuff together. And I'm like, and it comes out and it's great. And I'm like, who am I? What has happened to me in my life? I'm thrilled and also disgusted with myself all in one fell swoop.
It's was it Lyle Lovitz in The Wedding Singer? When he's behind the curtain, he goes, he's losing his mind. And I am reaping all the benefits.
Yes.
I'm reaping the benefits. You make all the sauce you want, bring it in. You've noticed I've already gone through half that with one bean and cheese burrito.
I know. As soon as we leave, you and Lloyd are going to be texting hey, our guy's Betty Crocker. Look at. And I'm like, I can totally understand you guys making fun of me, and I would deserve it too. I would 1,000% deserve it.
That may have already been texted.
Oh man,
because it's really good. But something along those lines. We're just glad that you're out there cooking, man, because we want to take it all in.
Well, Lloyd doesn't.
Lloyd loves it. Lloyd, you love it.
Yes, I do love it.
I gave Lloyd a cup to go with his bean and cheese. By the way, so I just thought, I like to do these beginning of the weeks, but at the end of the NBA regular season, I like to do the beginning of the week predictions for the Utah Jazz remaining schedule. I've done it a couple times this year. One time was very optimistic. So you ready for my 21 games left?
Yeah.
21 games left.
Okay.
21.
Probably going to be a little bit different than it was a few weeks ago.
Okay. I think out of these final 21 games, and I'm going to ask you about 3 games, but out of these final 21 games, there are 2 games they should be favored in out of the 21. They should be favored. Well, they are favored tonight, so we know that. 5.5-point favorite tonight against the Wizards. And then they should be favored against the San Antonio Spurs at home.
Yep.
Okay, now tell me this. The only other opportunity that they've got to be favored through the rest of the season is the 3 Houston Rockets games. That's it.
Yeah.
2 of them are at home. 1 is on the road. I mean, they could be favored against Atlanta because it's at home, but Atlanta just beat them. And so I thought when that rolls around here in a week, or whatever it is, I think it's about a week away that they play Atlanta again, that Atlanta would probably be favored because I think Atlanta is actually headed the different direction, and I think the Jazz are headed straight down. So Atlanta would probably be favored in that one. So you've got the Wizards and the Spurs. The Houston Rockets, 3 games, 2 at home, 1 on the road. What do you think favorite-wise?
Not knowing, obviously injuries and things like that will have a
availability and
1.
Houston right now is 26-34.
Yeah. You'd be favored against them at home.
So this is the way I looked at it. I thought that there's 2 teams that they'd probably be favored against in the final 21.
Yeah.
4 at the very most if you give them 2 Houston games. But 3 is probably.
I'm giving you the 1 is the one
likely.
Houston game. I agree with you with San Antonio.
Okay.
So I guess if you add the Washington, San Antonio, and I'm going to give you one Houston game, then 3.
There you go. You'd be favored 3 out of the final 21.
Yeah.
Out of the final 21 games, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those are against a non-top 10 seed or a potential play-in.
Yeah.
Everybody else, top 10 seed. You've got, let's see, so 16 of those are playing in better teams. You got 9 of them that are road games. And the way I kind of worked down my list, I ended up at 6-15 in the final 21. 6-15 in the final 21. That puts them at 33-49 on the season.
Well, you don't have to worry about conveying a pick at that point. I think you're being optimistic. I think it could be 4 or 5 wins the remainder of the year.
You think so?
Yeah, I just don't think this team's interested in winning. I just don't think they're I don't think they care. Like, that's not a priority. Okay, that's the wrong word. Will Hardy, if you heard that, would reach through the microphone and want to strangle me. I don't think it's a priority to win. I think Keyonte George and his development is more of a priority. Taylor Hendricks and his development is more of a priority. I just don't think that the Jazz right now, and that seeps down into the players. Like, the players don't see it as a priority. Those dudes are on Travelocity right now trying to find a way to book their vacations for the middle of April for Cancun.
I think they're checked out.
They're checked out mentally because they know, look, the front office, if you're a player, you should want to win because you don't want your team to draft your replacement. All right? That's 100% true. So you want to be giving your best film out there. You want to be doing everything you possibly can. But it's still human nature. When your bosses don't necessarily put a priority on winning, why should you? And again, this isn't a knock on the Jazz. I think Danny Ainge is doing the right thing. I think that it's a long game. I'm not saying that they don't care about winning. I just don't think it's a priority right now. Now, is it a priority for 26, 27, 28? Yes, absolutely. And what they're doing now is setting the stage for that. But if I'm a player right now in the present, if I'm Larry Markin, I'm like, why?
Why?
Why does this matter? I know I'm going to get a big fat extension. I know I'm part of their long-term plans. I know I'm a great player in the league. But if they don't care about right now, why should I care about the last 20 games?
Yeah, I agree. 33 and 49. Let's just say they finish that. If optimistic or not, if they finish 33 and 49 last year, Scotty, that would have put him at the 5th worst record in the NBA last year. 33 and 49. So my guess is if they do finish where I predict them in the final 21 to finish, my guess is they're somewhere between 5 and 8, and they will not convey. Now, that doesn't mean that they use the pick and keep the pick. They can move it and do all kinds of wonderful things with it. But I think that that's probably going to push to 2024-25 season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I would imagine if you're in that 5 range, I would imagine the Jazz probably use the pick and see if they can hit something.
I do too. Absolutely, they do.
And that would give them a pick at number 5, a pick at number 28 or 29, and then a pick at like 31 or 32 with the moves that they've made so far this season.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, which you may have missed. Coming up next, Josh Aduje from Utah State will join us coming up at 1:30 right here on The Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Joined now by the Hall of Famer Steve Young.
I heard Boomer Esiason make a statement that he feels like if Zach Wilson went and spent a year or two with Andy Reid, that he would be able to blossom as far as being an NFL quarterback. What is your response to that?
Quarterbacks thrive with support. You'd think there'd be so many organizations that figured this out, and they just haven't. Zach is responsible for Zach's problems. Zach has to own that. No matter what, I think it's important that you say that and then make the changes, but I really believe of all the places that Zach could go to, my spot would go to Sean McVay and behind Matthew Stafford, because I think it's a spot where he could really understand the position, really get coached in a way that could be really profitable to him, and still could see the field in the near term, because Matthew's probably not going to play forever.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10. Presented by Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer for 16 years in a row. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Tweet rolling in. Came in here looking for sports, and now I'm enamored with the salsa talk. I'm sorry. We're done. Okay?
Well, it's always okay, man. It's always okay. Because good salsa is hard to come by, and it's really hard to make good homemade salsa. And this is a really good chili salsa.
I don't know, man. It's funny you get to a point in your life of the things you get proud of.
I think it's nice that you're proud of it. You should be. Did you watch any of the NFL Combine?
Not really, no.
Lloyd, did you watch any NFL Combine?
A little bit.
Although,
like what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
I might have given it
Did you find some
maybe
local
30,
guys,
40 minutes, something like that.
I
watch
the
mainly
problem
the
is-
highlights on social.
Problem is, I need like a schedule. Like, hey, you know what? We're going to see this guy run at this time. So I'm like, okay, I can watch him run. But I'll say this. I didn't watch it live. I did go back, and I had to go back and watch the Keaton Slovis 40.
To see if it was real?
Because that doesn't make any sense at all.
I know.
I mean, we were led to believe this guy had center blocks for feet, and all of a sudden he goes out and runs a faster 40 than Puka Nacua did last year, or Jaron Hall did.
Keaton Slovis was the fastest quarterback at 4.55 on a 40.
What?
Fastest quarterback in the NFL Combine at 4.55. And it wasn't just the 40 time. All of his testing numbers were spectacular. And a little birdie told me, a little tiny Tweety bird told me that he threw extremely well. And he said, watch out. You might see this guy slip into the draft.
Because that makes sense. So why? Okay, so again, all right. I know he dealt the injuries and the things like that, but if this dude's out there running 4.55s, and what do we keep hearing over and over? You got to adjust the offense because he's not Jaron Hall. He's not Jaron Hall. He's not Jaron Hall. Jaron Hall could do things that he couldn't do. Well, okay, and I get it. It's not just about straightaway speed, but the dude ran a 4.55. You telling me we couldn't? You know, if you remember that coaching staff, you can't use him in terms of the running game. I mean, look, I'm a layman on this one, so explain this to me.
Okay, I will. So when Kedon Slovis was at Pitt, Pitt's more of a run and shoot than BYU. Yes. Pitt needs more of a running quarterback in that offense than BYU needs in this offense. And they couldn't get it out of him. And when Kedon Slovis scrambled in for like a 1 yard or 2 yard rushing touchdown for BYU last year, you know that was his first rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
In his college playing career. He ended up, I think, with 3 because I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns in one game, but nothing that was overly athletic. It was like 1 yard. One of the rushing touchdowns might have been like 12 yards or something that he was in the red zone and found off the left side and got in. But very, very few times did he take off. That didn't mean that he didn't have the green light to take off.
No.
So I think it's more how he feels about himself than how coordinators feel about the way they could use him. Because they look at him and they're like, you don't want to run? You don't want to get out? Because, Scotty, a quarterback doesn't just go out and run 4.55 at a combine, and the OCs didn't have an idea of where he was before that combine.
I would certainly hope that would be the case.
They all know you test to a large degree. You test, and I guarantee you there were times out there on the field where Kedon was outrunning very athletic dudes, and coaches are looking around like, "Geez, he must be pretty fast." Now, why can't we get him involved in the run game? Because he doesn't want to run. He doesn't like to be physical. Doesn't want to get hit. Doesn't want to really put his body on the line. I saw a guy that really wanted to be known as a pocket passer. I saw a quarterback that wanted to be known as a cerebral quarterback that looked through his reads, that delivered on time, and running and putting his body at risk was not the first and foremost for him.
Yeah.
But 4.55 would tell you, geez, man, this guy should have been running all over the field for Pitt and BYU.
Well, and again, I get everything you're saying, and when it's a one and done and you need help at that quarterback position, you know, you take what you can get and you concede some things when you're like, hey, look, this is what we do. And Keaton's like, well, you know, this is where I feel like I'm at my best. And so I understand that. But also, if I'm an OC and you have that skill set available to you, it's like, guess what? You don't have a choice. I need you running this stuff.
Yeah. But you know what else is weird about just Kedon on the field? 4.55 straight away on a 40 is just not representative of shifting through a tackle, moving lateral, and trying to get, you know, to the edge.
Yeah, and
to get some yardage.
And you're 100% right there. And I'm falling into a trap that I say all the time because it does seem like there are some players out there, the further they get away from actual football and they're just working out, the more their stock goes up. Mm-hmm. As opposed to other guys, the further they get away from the game, their stock goes down because people forget about what they did actually on a football field and just look at the numbers. And so I'm falling in that trap a little bit here with Kedon Slovis. And because when you watch Jaron Hall play football on the field and you watch Kedon Slovis play football on the field, there's no way in God's green earth you think that Kedon Slovis would run a 40-yard dash faster than Jaron Hall. Jaron Hall plays much faster and looks way more athletic on a football field playing the game of football than Kedon Slovis ever could.
Yep.
And same with Zach Wilson.
It was a heck of a 40 by Kedon.
So I get that, and again, I understand I'm falling into that trap a little bit.
Well, I understand it too because 4.55 is not 4.68.
No.
It is not 4.72. 4.55 is pretty rarefied air for quarterbacks. You just don't see it. It's really fast for a quarterback. So I think it caught all of us off guard. A couple of other numbers that stood out to me. Devon Vele checked in at 6'4", 205 pounds. He ran a 4.47. Devon Vele is a draftable body.
Yeah.
At receiver. Cole Bishop ran a 4.45. I thought that number helped him.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I thought that number really helped him. Sione Vaki, his numbers didn't really blow anybody away, didn't really impress anybody. But I guarantee you all the drills that he ran, like anything he was doing off the side. For instance, did you see his hands drill? The hands drill across the field. You saw that, Lloyd?
That one where he had to jump up to get it?
Yeah, backwards, kind of a back thrown pass. It's that one where you catch, Scotty, drop, turn, catch, drop, run across the field, catch, drop, and then turn the corner. And he caught them all. And I think it was the second one that he was running across the field was thrown behind him, and he kind of jumped backwards and hooked it with the left hand and was able to pull it in. It was pretty sick. It was really good. So I promise you he impressed. So his numbers didn't blow anybody away, but I guarantee you he impressed.
At one point, he was top 3 as far as his position, anyways, with the bench. I think he had 20 reps.
20 reps, yeah. I think he ended top 3.
Did he end up top 3?
Yeah, so. he and Kingsley both ended top 3 in their positions.
I talked to somebody with some knowledge, said that Kingsley would be, the way it was put to me, he would be surprised if he's not in the top 40 in the draft. Meaning, if he's not in the first round, he's in the top 10 of the second round.
Yep, that's exactly it. His numbers were all very good.
And apparently he interviewed really well, too.
I wouldn't be surprised. I know Kingsley. I know that family a little bit. And he's extremely sharp. Incredible kid.
I'm telling you.
Really incredible kid.
When you look at who's going to be the number 1 pick in terms of from the state, Kingsley's probably going to be that guy.
Yeah.
I do think Cole Bishop's going to have the better career. I think Cole Bishop's going to be a star in the league. Maybe not when I say star, I'm not talking perennial all-star or Pro Bowl player, but I'm talking about a guy that's going to play 10 to 12 years and make a whole lot of money in the league.
And see, I wonder if Sione Vaki isn't kind of in that same vein.
Yeah.
Because Sione is so Eric Weddlish with his work ethic and his drive and his duality, and he'll go out and do anything special teams. He'll give you 100 reps in a game. He's going to blow you away in camp. He's going to impress you to the point where you're like, well, what are we going to do? Well, he's a great leader, and he moves well as safety. All right, let's let him float around. And I think Cole and Sione both have a real future. One guy that I wish I could go to and say, just don't go to the combat, just don't test, is Keaton Bills. I wish I could have just told Keaton, just don't test. Go.
Interview,
don't test, because Keaton Bill's numbers were not real good. Ran a 5.38 40, was only able to push 24 reps on 225.
Where do you want an offensive lineman in reps?
28 plus.
Okay.
Yeah, I want him 28 plus. Kingsley got 31. Nobody broke 40 this year. 39, I think, was the highest rep that was put up. But I'd like you, minimum of 28. But I'd like you to push into the 30s.
Yeah.
That's where I really want to get you. So I'm worried that Keaton probably did more harm than he did good. Jonah Ellis really didn't test. And I think he may have done more harm than good, because he went in and just measured out at 6'2", and was only 248 pounds. Wasn't at the 250-pound mark. So
is he still dealing with like a little bit of an injury though? Is that's what it was.
He's hamstringed up a bit, and I don't know exactly what his injury is, but yeah, he's wrapped up in a bit of that. But it's like with Jonah Ellis, there's so much of me that wished he would have just come back for one more year. I
really think that
I'm trying to separate my personal feelings about that from my projections for the NFL for him.
I would really like the NFL to be a little bit more lenient in terms of allowing guys to go through the combine process, go through this process a little further, and still return to school. We talk about, everybody wants to talk about the benefit of the athletes and things like that. If you really care about your athlete, allow them to test the waters a little bit more. I understand there needs to be a hard deadline. And it's got to be rough on coaches as they try to recruit and replace players to kind of figure out what their roster spots are going to look like. But honestly, we're only looking at maybe 1 or 2 guys every year.
I 1 million% agree.
Because I think
we'd see a lot of guys come back.
If you were to put some true serum in Jonah Ellis right now, I think Jonah would probably lean on coming back.
Yeah, because you heal up, you come out, get a 15, 18 sack performance, because he could do that in the Big 12, guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He could. He could rack up 15 sacks in the Big 12. And he could put himself on a really nice display. I know you can't push your height, though, but you could push your weight. Mm-hmm. You could put another 8 to 10 pounds of good, solid muscle, and then you check in, instead of 248, you check in at 256, and you look more broad in the shoulder, because when you're 6'2", and you're under 250, now I'm looking at you like an edge run liability.
Yep.
You're an edge run liability. And now I'm like, can I use him as just a third down weapon? But third down weapons have become a thing of the past right now in the NFL. You know, you've got these Max Crosbys and these Bosas, and you've got the prototypical edge player that is still not overly heavy, has insane endurance, and can give you 65 snaps.
And you can hold an edge. On 3rd and 3.
Yes.
And also get after your quarterback on 3rd and 8.
Yes. So the specialty rush is kind of gone. And I think a lot of the specialty rush in the third down rushing kind of went away the back end of my era. You know, Robert Mathis, who I think, is he a Hall of Famer? Is he headed towards Hall of Fame?
I think he is, actually.
Yeah, I think he either is or is headed that way. Robert Mathis came in my second year when I was with the Colts. And we all looked at him like, Robert Mathis is Jonah Ellis.
Yeah.
That weight you just said that you would like to have Jonah Ellis at, that's Max Crosby's weight. That's his
256.
Yep.
That's a really good weight, because you got but Max Crosby's, what is he? 6'5"?
6. Doesn't say there.
See if you can find that. I gotta imagine he's 6'5", 6'6", because he's a long, extended sucker.
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah. He's Max Crosby's he's a beautiful edge rush body. So I think Jonah Ellis has got the goods, because he's got such quick hands. He's got a nose for the rush, but you know, you need to see good pro day numbers. He's got some work in front of him. I just want to see him. I wish I could see him back as a U one more year.
Yeah. All right, 106, Hans and Scotty. Josh Aduje is going to join us coming up at 1:30. We'll chat with him. Also, we'll recap the weekend. Again, a look back on the Jazz, a lot of college basketball, NFL Combine. Busy day. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.